Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Palmer, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 212. Oh, yeah, 212. So welcome if you're here as a newbie. If you've been here a bunch of times, we're glad to have you back. If you don't know what we talk about things, usually drift not too deep into politics, but anything that kind of pops into my head and I say, okay, I got to go rage about this. Available on YouTube, also a Facebook group, which is the Position to Win book, which is my book. Group, and you can go check it out there. You can also go to positionwinbook.com, get lots of good freebie stuff, but you get the idea. Now, with me, as always, to stand in your place, to ask the questions, the probing questions, not let me off the hook, is the ever lovely, though in a rather chill state, because she is in a state that's chilly, and not like a chili cook-off, but Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Coming back off of a road trip. You know how it is. It's just, you gotta push through it. Gotta get it done. Okay, so what is our topic today? Let's go for it.
All right, so are you ready for AI is our topic. So when did you first hear about AI?
I actually, the first time I ever saw an ad that was designed, now they didn't call it necessarily AI, but it was AI anyway, is that I was sitting there and had moved to California. And here I'm the sales guy, and I want to make sure that I do a great job, and and also make a lot of money. So there's an ad in one of the tech magazines. It was probably Byte magazine, and it had this thing called the Sales Predictor. Now they're really advertising the wrong place in my mind, because a bunch of computer nerds, they don't care. But it talked about how you gave it a bunch of inputs, and then it would spit back this big report, and you could print it out, and it was going to raise your sales, and everything was going to be better, and you had them right there, and they claimed that they had, and I don't have the ad, probably somewhere is archived, but that you could plug in all this information and it would come back because it had the, if you will, the wisdom of the ages kind of thing. And I thought it was really cool until I looked at the price, which was $595. And I went, I don't know. Not enough proof in the ad, not enough explaining to me what it was really going to do. And by the way, of course, you can't return software, because like other types of products, once you try them on, you're not going to get your money back. So that was the first time I touched AI, and I was interested in it and read, because I kept trying to read articles, and that was what you could do. And nobody sat there and said, wow, I got this and it was perfect and it was great. But it got me interested in that topic. If you went to a bookstore, a library, or anything and said, what is this thing? And of course, they use different names, even though artificial intelligence is a phrase that was coined in the 1950s. It was like an expert system. So that was when I first kind of became aware of it. Was fascinated by it, but I didn't plop down the $595.
So you worked for an AI company in the 90s?
Hard to believe, but I did. And how that story comes about is there was a company in San Diego, and North San Diego, and what they were is they were actually a customer of mine when I was at Mercury Computer Systems. And so they were a fledgling startup, and their venture capitalists called our venture capitalists and said, you guys should have a play date. I don't know if it quite went down that way, but that's how we got the lead. And myself and one of the founders of Mercury went down and met with these people and talked to them. And it was rather interesting, because they were talking about this thing called neural networks and what neural networks were going to be able to do. But it was very processor intense. And since we sold high-speed processors, they were a potentially good fit. I walked out a skeptic, to say the least. However, I ended up getting a great contract from them and later worked for them for a short period of time, which gave me great exposure to the team and great exposure to the people. In fact, Robert Heck Nielsen, who started HNC is Heck Nielsen Corporation. He had a graduate student partner, Todd Gutschall. I hope I'm remembering to pronounce his last name correct. Two nice guys, but the cool part is that Robert wrote a book. And it was actually a textbook, which is neural computing, and it shows a little symbol of a neural network. And all I can say is You're gonna really want to be put on your smart hat if you're going to be reading this book. So I had an opportunity to go to breakfast with him and meet with him and be in meetings. And some of the things that he talked about, we're just starting to see today. He was very much a visionary. However, it was really a bad fit for me because I was a product kind of sales guy at the time, less of a conceptual person. But what it was interesting is that I got to see where things were going. And I was very fascinated by predictive modeling. I've always been interested in decision trees and game theory and how those things came together. So it was kind of a good fit from that standpoint. Intellectually very stimulating. Sadly, he has passed, but it was an amazing guy. And it was once again. Now we know, looking back, that this was a time where neural networks, fuzzy logic was also a discussion. And the reason why they call it fuzzy logic is that fuzzy is easier to explain than a neural network. So.
And what were they using AI for?
So what AI needs, what the algorithms need, because that's really AI. Let's step back for just a second. AI is just kind of this big umbrella, just like when the internet.com boom was booming. If you could stick the word internet or .com on anything, I've got a toaster and it's connected to the internet. Hey, yeah, it's an internet toaster. But what they were doing is they were doing analysis for people, and therefore they thought that it could improve manufacturing capabilities. However, as Robert said to me, when I was the professor, because that's where he was, and he was in San Diego, what we had projected as to the data set sizes that we needed, what we discovered is that we probably were undershooting by, massive numbers of orders of magnitude. So who had large data? So while I was there, this company approached us, and it was a Philip Morris company. And it turned out that they wanted to make cigarettes more efficiently. And they had lots of data because they captured tons and tons and tons of data on their production line, highly optimized, billions of data points. However, there was a lot of squeamishness inside the company. And I understand, by that point in time, I'm an ex-smoker, to go out there and really, can we help these people make this dangerous product, addictive product, better? So that was one of them. But they had the data. That was the interesting thing. They had been capturing the data. They had the data, and all of that. So that was one of those kind of interesting things. The next one was Frito-Lay. And Frito-Lay, when they make all these potato chips, what happens is they have to spray the spice on it. And I'm a big fan of barbecued potato chips. I mean, I know not a health food, but what they were concerned about is that when they sprayed it on there, did they have consistency so every chip was perfect? Now, people will rail against to call this junk food, but I can tell you that the Frito-Lay people have a unique marking on every bag that's out there. So if you go and buy out of a vending machine in Chicago O'Hare Airport, as I had done in my life, and I told them that if you got that bag and open it up, and nothing worse than barbecue potato chips not having the right spices, then you could actually call them on the toll-free number, give them that number, and tell them what the problem was, and they'd send you a coupon to make up. And actually, they sent me 5 coupons. Now, they have lots of that, but again, that was like one of those, okay, great thing to do is optimize, spraying spices on, potatoes, chips, and all that. But the third one is that the financial people came in, and what they were doing is they were trying to, of course, figure out who's going to be a good credit risk and who's going to be a bad credit risk, and how do we build models? How do we look at that? So there were several financial institutions, and even to this day, I'll because of prudence, I will just not mention their exact names. And so the guys, the place was filled, and this is why it wasn't a great fit for me. The place was filled with PhDs, master's degrees, all essentially algorithmists, all people who really understood the heavy math. Because if you don't understand that AI at its bedrock is filled with lots of math. So if you get here's how you can tell the difference between a kind of like a go simple book versus a real book, is that a real book has lots of real math, lots of real formulas. If you didn't like calculus, you probably aren't going to like that heavy end of the pool. but that's a different thing. So turns out credit scoring system was a big deal. And what it was, they were trying to predict who would default on their credit card debt. That's a big thing right now because we have a massive amount of, as we're recording this, massive amount of credit card debt. So how do we watch it? How do we look at it? So if you've ever been upset, the credit card company starts altering what's going on, probably at the basis of that. So that was the winner chicken dinner. By that point in time, I was rolling out the door to go do other adventures. But it was interesting to watch because the amount of data required was huge. And even today, if you think that we've actually inhaled all the data of humankind, has not happened. Even with these big models, it sounds like a lot of data. 10 years down the road, we'll say, yeah, it was kind of a puny data set. So those are the things that they were using it for.
And so whatever happened to them?
Well, what happened to them is this credit scoring model basically worked. It helped institutions figure this out. And the Mac Daddy credit scoring people, which is a company called Fair Isaac. You probably won't know them as that, but it's FICO, FICO. Those are the people because you have your FICO score, and the FICO people bought them out. And Robert and Todd, and I hope all of those guys made a ton of money. I didn't have any stock because how short a duration I was there, but those guys cashed out for $810 million, which was really incredible. And I think that they did a spectacular job. Two really nice guys. Robert was, it was an amazingly smart guy. And, I didn't understand at the time what I was learning, but I do now because, we are now seeing the utter explosion of AI. I wanted to tell everybody this story because I think that it's important that we always understand where things come from because this life is a continuum. There is a misinterpretation of the world that whenever you start something is when the world began. Well, started billions of years ago and we are still going to go forward. So always have a good idea of where things have come from, which brings us to, well, why were these guys successful? Why was Robert successful? And he was successful in spite of the fact that, and by the way, that environment, one of the things that people would say to me, John, you know how to tell all these sales stories. You really should be writing a book. Well, eventually I did, but obviously they never got to see it. But most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. They did not fail, I think, unlike other companies at the time that were AI companies, if you will, or become AI companies. And that is because Robert had a very clear vision of what he was doing. He had this business positioned, and that's what the most important part of it is, because he understood that he was a neural network company. Now, that's a tough slog, and he could have been rejected. It may not have been successful, but what he did was he had enough money to keep looking and working and finding where that niche was. But he had a niche, and he could be there, and he stood that test of time. So go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, go to Books A Million, you can get a physical copy. Also, you can get a digital copy from Kindle, Nook, and Apple iBooks. And you can always get a physical copy by going to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. And there you can ask me to inscribe it and sign it. Also, you can go pick up yourself a Raging Verbalist mug. Every day you can rage just a little bit more. All right, Sandra, what's next?
All right, so how does someone get ready to use AI?
This AI is now in a very explosive state, and people are getting very excited about it. And I meet people who are just kind of diving in. So experimentation is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But one of the things that I am very acutely aware of is that when you have technology like this, when you have this amazing tool set, AI are a series of tools. When you do that, understand that you should learn how to use those tools. You should get a basis in what's going on. There are lots of YouTube videos that will tell you how to make $1,000 in a minute or whatever the hell they're going to say. Funny, you don't ever see those people really taking and showing you how much money they're making for real. Sometimes they do, but they're selling some kind of info funky-dookie project. Because if their growth was going to be that great, then let's talk to you in 2 years because you're going to be a trillionaire. So how do you get ready for AI is that you're going to need to learn a new language. It falls into my rule, my rule which says whenever new technology comes out, all the technology people, and they don't get together. There's no dark secret, basement dungeon with a cauldron boiling and people, screaming from chained to walls and stuff. So what they do is they invent new language, and they invent new language just to kind of like throw us off the scent. So what you want to do is you want to learn some of the language, learn what's going on, because AI brings to us things that we don't necessarily understand. I like to say that you get ready for AI by learning the language, learning how some of the concepts are, and then becoming proficient enough or becoming at least capable enough that you then start utilizing the tools, not as a novelty, but actually how you're going to adjust your life, your routine, your goals and aspirations to utilizing what I believe is going to be an amazing tool. AI has been overhyped for decades. That's why there have been AI springs and summers and AI winters and deep freezes. And part of it is that people expect too much too quickly and they don't stick to it. My suggestion is stick to it and you're going to learn a lot more about it.
So where does AI fit? How do you use it?
So every day I talk to people when I'm traveling. I always bring up AI because I want to hear what they're going to say and what they're going to do. And the overarching pervasive statement is, well, how's it going to work for me? I was talking to a pediatric dentist as I was flying to Denver this week. Well, how's it going to affect me? What's it going to do for me? I like to think of it this way. Now, the internet is amazing. We all use it on a regular basis. We take a lot of things for granted. Same statements were made about it when it was started. What is it going to do for me? AI is bigger than that. And it is bigger than that because it is like electricity. When electricity was harnessed and we could manufacture it at will and produce it and all of those things, people said the same thing. What's it going to do for me? Can you imagine a world today? First off, what we're doing right now is not possible without electricity. What we do in our very lives is not possible with electricity. Electricity is everywhere. Don't believe me? Go to an airport and watch people plug it in their phones, plug it in their laptops, plug it in their tablets, doing this, doing that, plug it in their earbuds. That's all electricity. When electricity first came out, it was a novelty. They lit up the World's Fair and people went crazy and said, wow, that's amazing. It changed how the world went. Now, it took years and years and years. In fact, the first plant that was ever purpose-built to use electricity still stands today. It's in Pennsylvania. You go to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and it was the Hershey chocolate factory. And when Hershey built it, he said, we're going to use this thing called electricity, even though it was more expensive for him to do. My view is that AI is like electricity. We are several weeks, months, years potentially from those who will take this raw capability, harness it, and then hand it to various individuals. My suggestion, if you don't want to be left behind, is just like electricity, start thinking, how can I use this to change and improve my life, my business, my lot in life, and what's going to happen? Doesn't mean that you're going to learn things that are going to go by the board. I'm still a little pissed that I learned D-base pseudo language, because D-base pseudo language, nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about. And if you do, put it in a comment down below so we can form a very small group of people who even know what I'm talking about. But the point of it is that it's like electricity, and the implications are going to be massive and they're going to be huge. And this isn't hype. This is going to happen, because final piece about what this does is that if I could sit you down in front of ostensibly all the knowledge that we have collected as a species, starting, you pick the time frame, 6,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and get all of that put together in a way that you can utilize it, you can access it. The question is, what Not what will it do for you, but what will you do with it? What leverage will you apply to the problems that exist in our world?
And how does it affect business people?
Well, you should be very afraid right now. You should be very afraid for one thing. In 2024, flat out saying it, this is a prediction, is either you're going to be in the AI game, you're either going to figure out how to harness its power, however nascent it is, fancy word for beginning, or you're going to be going broke. And you're going to be going broke because if you don't figure it out, your competitors will, and new competitors will be spawned in ways that you've never seen it before. New things will crop up because it will be an accelerant. Since it is such a powerful leverage tool, it will be an accelerant to creative destruction, which is in fact what innovation is. Innovation is creative destruction. And when somebody tells me, well, we need to regulate it, we need to harness it, we're regulating something that we don't even know what it is yet. Regulating it is stupid, because what you want to do if you're a business is you want to say, how do I start to rethink? How do I start to understand my business? There is no one size fits all. There's going to be a lot of offerings right now. There's like 3,000 plugins for Chat GPT. No one even knows what all of them are. Lots of duplicative stuff. The question is that if you're in business, know thyself. That's what Shakespeare said, and lots of others. So you got to know yourself. You know what your business is, and then you say, how can this be enhanced, improved, or more importantly, eliminated? Because the real question is can you use it as a means of leveraging it, or will it in fact be something that you miss out on?
And what is the one thing everyone should be thinking about as AI develops and explodes?
The thing that you have to really concentrate on and put your head, wrap it around, is that AI is going to affect every aspect of our lives, and it's going to change everybody's life, I believe, potentially for the better. But the amount of dislocation could be huge and enormous. So the one thing that you have to keep thinking about is, how will I improve myself? How will I get out there and use AI as a way to accelerate what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to achieve? It always starts with the individual. And if you are not aware and you're not working in that direction, and you're not becoming very competent, becoming very proficient, becoming excellent at it, that you will be left. And you do not want to be left. If you want to know why Amazon was able to come from nowhere and overtake how many different other channels of where you can buy something, is because they were not hindered by their, or shackled would probably be a better way, by their existing format. And if you look at all of the major retailers, they missed this massive opportunity. Some are still alive trying to catch up. Some are still trying to figure it out. But in the end, those who understand the technology and use it, that wave that will crash over all of us, you're either going to be riding it or be drowned by it. And what I'd like to say is that for myself, John Paul Mendechi, Dr. Speed Selling, and the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist 212. Go out and have a great one. Go learn a little bit more about AI. Hopefully this got your appetite whetted in a more realistic way. There's the hypesters, the hucksters, and all of those, but go learn the real stuff. Go learn how to really use it. And if you do, what you'll do is you'll have that leverage that only AI will provide. At this point in time, we're going to see a massive deflection point, and it will change the world, in my opinion, forever. And until next week, Raging Verbalist is now a wrap.